General Hospital spoilers tease that a new looming threat is silently closing in on Sasha, a woman who once seemed to have finally found peace after a long string of tragedies, throwing everything back into a whirlwind of chaos. Just as her life begins to take yet another drastic turn, from someone impersonating the father of her baby to being forced to live behind layers of emotional masks to protect others, a harsher truth is slowly coming to light: Sasha's pregnancy is far from smooth. In fact, it carries potentially serious complications that threaten both her life and that of her unborn child. Beneath the congratulatory wishes and the media spotlight shining on the perfectly orchestrated life she and Jason are trying to preserve, Sasha is quietly facing a mother's greatest fear: the growing sense that her body is not responding as expected. Unusual symptoms, sudden pains, and inexplicable test results have all raised serious concerns with her doctor about potential preeclampsia or even early fetal demise, the very nightmare Sasha once lived through with Liam. That trauma still haunts her, and now, every little sign sends her into a heightened state of vigilance, inner turmoil, and despair. Meanwhile, external pressures continue to mount. With Jason stepping up as the child's supposed father, and Carly and Willow constantly hovering like unseen watchdogs, Sasha must not only act like a glowing mother-to-be but also carefully measure every word and movement to maintain the increasingly fragile facade. One of Rick's latest outrageous ideas, to keep the pregnancy condition a total secret, perhaps even fake an early birth or conceal a medical issue, has pushed Sasha into panic and internal conflict. She knows better than anyone that the longer she hides the truth, the greater the risk to her baby. But if the truth comes out, the entire protection system keeping her safe from court, the press, and Michael would come crashing down. This is no longer just a mother's burden. It's a disaster building from layered secrets. From being forbidden to reveal the real status of her pregnancy, to Jason being increasingly entangled in a private investigation into Sunny's poisoning and growing more absent from her life, Sasha feels more isolated than ever. And in that emptiness, fear of losing her child, her trust, and even herself, begins to eat away at her spirit. Every ultrasound, every abnormal result, every night she lies alone with her hand on her stomach feels like a slow drift away from reality, toward an ending she dares not imagine. A recent anonymous phone call, hinting that someone knows the truth about the baby's father, has escalated the situation. No one knows who the caller is. Jason suspects Sunny, Carly suspects Nina, and Sasha simply feels surrounded on all sides. She no longer knows where safety lies. And with her health deteriorating, the only thing she can do is try to stay calm, something she's rapidly losing control over. The danger Sasha now faces no longer only comes from the outside, but from within her own body, mind, and the secrets she holds. And the most terrifying part is, no one, not even Jason, realizes how serious it is until it's too late. A disaster named silence is forming, and if not extinguished soon, it could take everything, not just a tiny life, but the last shred of faith Sasha has in this world. The sudden return of Holly and Robert to Port Charles is more than just a family visit. It carries the chilling air of long-buried secrets, a revelation powerful enough to shake Sasha's entire world at a moment when she's teetering between happiness and disaster. No one, not even Sasha, expected her biological parents, long thought to have disappeared from her life in her youth, to suddenly re-enter it at its most fragile point. But what they bring is not a tearful reunion. It's a secret so powerful that saying it aloud could destroy every illusion of peace Sasha is clinging to. That secret, one of the wildest twists ever surrounding Sasha, is no misunderstanding or accident, but a deliberately hidden truth. Sasha was never the biological daughter of the woman she believed was her mother. Holly and Robert had left her behind as part of a covert mission, a WSB intelligence operation they had to prioritize over their own flesh and blood to keep her, and the agency, safe. But what they never expected was that, upon their return, Sasha was no longer a naive child, but a woman scarred by loss, wounds, and pain, without them ever being there to help her through. Their return, with both truth and guilt in tow, pushes Sasha into a new psychological spiral, casting doubt on her identity, memories, and entire understanding of family. Robert, stoic and WSB to the core, attempts to justify their abandonment as a protective measure against his enemies and geopolitical conspiracies. Holly, softer and more emotional, can only cry in the presence of the daughter she never got to hold in her early years. But no explanation, no matter how sincere, can undo the truth. Sasha has lived a life shaped by loss, uncertainty, and the persistent feeling of not belonging. And now, learning that her real parents are two of the most influential figures in WSB and Port Charles history, who could have changed everything but chose silence, leaves her unsure whether to feel fury or hopelessness. This new revelation, that Sasha is now the daughter of two major WSB players, instantly makes her the target of multiple underground forces. She is no longer just a pregnant woman fighting for her child, but the missing link in an intelligence network that's being reactivated for mysterious purposes. Former enemies of Robert have started tracking Sasha. Old WSB agents from Holly's days are reappearing around the hospital. Doctors who once cared for Sasha are being reassigned or silenced. These patterns are no longer coincidences. They are proof that the truth has been triggered, and an inevitable explosion is looming. Meanwhile, Jason, the only one who ever made Sasha feel safe, is being pulled deeper into a separate investigation involving Sunny and Sidwell. His absence at such a crucial time leaves Sasha more lost than ever. Questions about the baby's identity, Jason's role in her life, and the truth behind the false father narrative are now eclipsed by a larger question. If Holly and Robert are her real parents, who raised her, and why? One of the greatest looming disasters is that the truth might not just break trust, it might destroy everything that's left of a soul already eroded by loss and deceit. Sasha no longer knows who she is, where she came from, or why everyone seems to have a plan for her. And in that moment, as memories collapse and relationships fall under scrutiny, a silent attack begins, not with weapons, but through manipulation, the reappearance of old faces, and whispered threats in the shadows. Sasha is no longer just the victim of a broken family. She's the key to a national secret. Port Charles stands on the edge of a storm. And at its heart, Sasha, once just a wounded girl, is now the woman everyone wants to control. A new war has begun, not fought with blood, but with truth. And once that truth is revealed, it will bring everything crashing down. The story surrounding the mysteries engulfing Holly and Sasha's lives has moved far beyond vague side plots. It has now become the epicenter of a sprawling web of danger, expanding rapidly and spiraling out of control. One of the major shifts quietly taking place is the re-emergence of figures once believed to have stepped away from power, such as Holly, who has now become a high-value target for shadow manipulators like Brennan and Sidwell. Holly's return to Port Charles doesn't just resurrect buried memories, it triggers a cascade of events tied to a long-suppressed past, unleashing threats that span both personal tragedies and international political unrest. Brennan and Sidwell, once thought to be separate entities, now share one alarming goal: eliminate or neutralize Holly before she reveals the one truth they both fear. A coded secret capable of toppling underground alliances built over decades. Because Holly holds, or once participated in, an intelligence program believed to be destroyed, she has suddenly become too valuable a target to ignore. Surveillance efforts, staged traffic incidents, and breaches into old mission archives tied to Holly are all clear signs that a full-scale operation is underway, and Holly is the target. Meanwhile, Sasha, already overwhelmed by her newly uncovered identity and the pressures of single motherhood, is being dragged into this vortex as her bloodline connection to Holly and Robert becomes increasingly undeniable. What was once thought to be personal or familial is now the missing piece in a global conspiracy. Sasha is no longer just a wounded pregnant woman, she is a living witness, a carrier of answers that Brennan and Sidwell are desperate to erase. She is the long-lost product of two legendary agents, the consequence of a survival decision made years ago. And now, her very existence poses a dangerous threat to those who want the truth buried forever. What's most dangerous is that Sasha herself still doesn't fully grasp her role in this spiraling chaos. She's torn between wanting to trust her newly found parents, Holly and Robert, and the fear that she's merely a pawn in a much larger game. The signs around her are growing more alarming. Strangers appearing outside her home and disappearing, her medical records being accessed illegally, and a string of anonymous calls with cryptic threats. The feeling of being watched, manipulated, and used as bait is slowly eroding her sanity. And with every passing day, she realizes that the life she painstakingly rebuilt from old ruins could collapse at any moment due to secrets she never chose to be part of. One of the clearest disasters now looming is the total collapse of the boundary between personal affairs and political schemes. Holly's decisions to protect Sasha are now putting her life at risk. Brennan and Sidwell's moves are not just acts of personal vengeance, they're part of a strategic purge ahead of a greater shift in global power dynamics. And at the center of it all stands Sasha, a woman once perceived as fragile and broken, now a volatile emotional and strategic linchpin. Every step Sasha takes could now trigger irreversible consequences, and no one, not Jason, Robert, or even Anna, can save her if she doesn't decide to fight back or continue being led. Port Charles is in a state of silent alert, with all eyes on Sasha, Holly, and the secrets on the verge of exposure. When Brennan and Sidwell decide to act instead of threaten, the only choice left will be this: reveal the truth to break free, or keep it hidden and let disaster consume even the innocent. A new war has been confirmed. And this time, it won't just unfold in the shadows, it will draw blood, tears, and potentially irreversible loss if the truth is not faced. One of the quiet shifts reshaping the hidden power structure in Port Charles is Holly's unexpected designation as the successor to Jason's top-secret mission, protecting Sasha from forces now more dangerous than ever. This decision is not just an emergency strategic pivot. Triggered by Jason being pulled deeper into investigating Sonny's poisoning and Sidwell's covert operations, it is a bold signal that the game has evolved beyond personal ties or emotions. It's now a tightly coordinated system where every role, every person, is an irreplaceable link. And Holly, once the face of the WSB, a woman who lived in the gray zone between duty and emotion, returns to the battlefield not for an organization, but for her own blood. She is no longer just an agent. She's a mother given a second chance to protect the daughter she once had to abandon. But because this return wasn't born from instinct, but from necessity, it has opened a new kind of torment for Holly, a guilt-ridden struggle to shield Sasha at all costs while living under the constant shadow of feeling unworthy of motherhood. This already emotionally charged story is now set against a backdrop of danger where one wrong move could cost both their lives. This transformation highlights a new trait in Holly: the ability to reinvent herself in a drastically different environment, one driven equally by emotion and strategy. She is no longer the woman quietly retreating from political spotlight but now the soul wall strong enough to stand between Sasha and the threats closing in. From this role, a new series of shocks begins to unravel. From Holly discovering that Sidwell was a former ally who betrayed her during a mission involving genetic experiments, to the revelation that Brennan, her ex-lover, holds classified files about Sasha even Robert doesn't know. All these buried layers are resurfacing, making Holly's role not just one of a protector, but of someone forced to confront the very ghosts she tried to forget. What's more terrifying is that Sasha, caught in the storm of her identity crisis, begins to question whether Holly is protecting her out of maternal love, or as part of an unfinished mission. Holly's discipline, calculation, and emotional restraint, though rooted in concern, makes Sasha feel more like a subject of surveillance than a daughter loved. That emotional contradiction is spiraling into a dangerous vortex, with Sasha's growing suspicion now threatening the fragile, newly formed bond between them. A double shock is building: the painful truth of a hidden past and the fear of losing the one thing Sasha dared to hope for, a real family. But on the other side of the war, Brennan and Sidwell aren't stopping. They begin exploiting Sasha's emotional vulnerabilities, planting disinformation to make her believe Holly is still covertly working for the WSB and that everything is just a long-running control operation. Doctored photos, fake documents, and manipulated recordings begin to unravel the trust Sasha only just started building. And as that trust breaks, Holly begins to waver, not from fear of mission failure, but from the looming fear of losing her daughter again. Not because she must leave, but because Sasha may choose to walk away. One of the most haunting developments is this: if Holly fails, it won't just be a tactical loss, it will be the permanent collapse of the maternal bond she only just began to reclaim. If Sasha is torn from Holly again, by lies, violence, or death, then every effort Holly has made to atone will mean nothing. And with that nightmare haunting every breath, Holly must fight. Not just against her enemies, but against the collapse within herself. Port Charles has never faced a confrontation as emotionally volatile and dangerous as this. When a mother is reborn with a fractured heart, and a daughter slowly disintegrates from confusion and distrust, every action, whether to protect or to sacrifice, carries consequences that can't be undone. A new war has truly begun, and this time, it's not just about missions. It's about family, forgiveness, and the devastating price of truth. Sasha has lived through an indelible nightmare, a tragedy that no amount of time can ease. The death of her long-awaited son, Liam, just before she was due to give birth, ripped a piece of Sasha's soul away and left a void that nothing could fill. The loss not only plunged her into a state of utter despair, but also plunged her into months of depression, anti-anxiety medication, and endless nights. Sasha hit rock bottom, and has only just managed to break free with what little strength she had left in her heart. Now, pregnant again, this time with a child whose biological father is kept hidden by Jason's legal mask, Sasha hopes to start over. But the reality is crueler than she could have imagined. The signs that she might go into premature labor began to appear: irregular contractions, fluctuating blood pressure, increasing dizziness, and blurred vision. Sasha's body, though seemingly normal to outsiders, was sending clear signals of danger. And what made the situation even more terrifying was that Sasha was hiding it all, out of status, out of public pressure, out of a promise to keep the baby a secret from those lurking in the shadows. As her health rapidly declined, a new storm was brewing. Sidwell and Brennan, two seemingly unrelated people who were secretly coordinating a sophisticated network of attacks, had chosen to strike when Sasha was at her weakest. They didn't simply want to kill her. They wanted to make her death, or that of her unborn child, a warning to anyone who dared to approach the secret Sasha might be carrying. A child born to former high-level agents like Holly and Robert, with the ability to access encrypted genetic data. A child is not just a life, but a living weapon. Sasha is no longer an ordinary pregnant woman. She is a target. A prey. At the center of a complex conspiracy that outsiders only see the tip of. And as Brennan begins to reveal herself through financial manipulation of the hospital where she is being treated, as Sidwell hires insiders to infiltrate the medical staff, the only thing Sasha can do is run, from the gaze, from the threat, from the truth she is not yet ready to face. She is being hunted just as she is about to become a mother again. One of the new obsessions that is exploding is the feeling of betrayal by her body, by her trust, and by the silence of those who are supposed to protect her. Jason is caught in a federal investigation from which there is no escape. Holly is distracted by the ambushes targeting Robert. Willow, who promised to support, is busy with the custody battle. Sasha, in the most dangerous moment of her life, finds herself alone again, just like the first time she lost Liam, with no one to reach her. And that fear, that she could lose her second child without someone to hold her hand, suffocates her every minute. The sudden pains in the middle of the night, the strange footsteps in the hospital hallways, the secretly altered ultrasound records, the tapped phone, all are clear signs that an attack has been planned to the exact hour, every day. And if Sasha doesn't act, doesn't escape, doesn't find a safe place, not only will she, but her unborn child, become the scapegoat for a war she didn't start. A disaster called loss is repeating itself right before Sasha's eyes, this time no longer caused by nature, but by men, those who are willing to erase anyone just to keep the past from being exposed. Port Charles may not know what is coming, but Sasha knows. She feels it in every irregular heartbeat, in every anonymous phone ring, and in every cold touch on the hospital wall. And this time, if there is no miracle, if no one comes in time, Sasha may lose everything, again. But the most terrifying thing is, will she have the strength to survive another heartbreak? Or will the unrecovered memories kill her before the first shot? One of the greatest disasters of her life is approaching, and it takes the form of a premature birth in the darkness of betrayal and blood.